Boom, hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Hey, what's up, you guys? Byron Rodgers here, and I've got Ed Calderon, man. It's an honor to have you here with us, brother.
It's an honor to be on here, man. Been following you for a long time, and very appreciate the invitation.
Outstanding, man. And likewise, I've been following your stuff as well. Straight up real world stuff, dude. Like I'll be like scrolling through my Instagram, and then I'll see something you'll post. It's like aggressive and like raw, and I'm like, oh, and like, it brings me back a little bit, which I appreciate. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, so props, man.
Yeah, I mean, it gets me into trouble every now and then. I get ghost banned, and people complain, but I think it's needed in our day and age to kind of provide some honesty out there about what's happening.
Heck yeah. No, I agree 100%, especially with all the like razzle dazzle going on online and on Instagram and all that trash too. Like really, really, man. So, that's what's up. That's one of the main reasons I was like, dude, if I can get this guy on, we can hang out. That'd be cool. So, So for everyone listening, Ed Calderon, this is just like a quick bio. I'll let him go kind of more in depth with it. But, for over a decade, Ed Calderon has worked in the field of counter narcotics, organized crime, and investigations and public safety in the northern border region of Mexico. During this period, he also coordinated and worked executive protection details for high-level government officials and visiting dignitaries, often in some of the most dangerous parts of the country. So that's who I've got here, man. And kind of, I remember my sister-in-law wanted to take a vacation. Actually, she did her marriage down in Mexico. So I remember pulling a threat assessment on the country. And I was like, are you serious? You really got to go here right now?
I mean, it's a pretty big country, and it's very varied. Safety-wise, some places are Mad Max level dangerous. Some others are pretty calm.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting place to say the least.
Yeah, man. I was I heard some. I mean, this is just people talking, but it was some areas of Mexico were supposedly as dangerous as Iraq, Afghanistan.
When I was working, the operations group I was part of. Was our life insurance was provided by MetLife, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and according to some of their agents, we had it was one of the most dangerous places on the planet, if not the most dangerous place on the planet to be a police officer at that time, right? Yeah. So it was pretty insane.
Yeah, man. No, and that's what I remember hearing too. Like that's exact corroborates with what I remember hearing. Just to give you guys some perspective too. Well, and then you've developed what's called the Ed's Manifesto, right?
It's
break it down for me, man. What is it exactly?
I'm blessed. I was blessed by having a very wonderful mother that pushed me to always try and learn new things. And we had a strict no television in any other language but English policy at the house when I was growing up. So I got my English by watching TV mostly, and movies and stuff like that. My mom was very instrumental in me learning English, and not just knowing how to speak it, understand it, but having, good conversational English. So when it came time to training, when I went into work for the government, the fact that I was bilingual was very, basically any sort of training on the U.S. side, or American trainers coming over to teach us something, I was always at the front of the line, because they needed translators, or they needed somebody there to, handle everything language wise. So as I was going through all that training, like I went to several parts in the U.S. to train with Americans. I've always carried around a small moleskin notebook where I anything interesting I would write down,
Mm-hmm.
And some of the guys that were, part of the, the cadre training us, would kind of laugh at me and say, what are you writing in your little manifesto, basically?
That's
and that manifesto basically turned into a notebook that, later on, when I got named instructor for some of the regional academies, and then I got to give back to some of the newer generations coming into the forces, I would base most of the stuff that I would show them on these notebooks and video collection and picture collection that I had for myself. And everybody would jokingly call it the Ed's Manifesto, right? Like some sort of terrorist program of some sort, right?
Yeah.
And eventually, I got started teaching the public, not just government forces.
Mm-hmm.
And it just when it came time to make a social media profile, which my first one was on Tumblr. Just the name, just Ed's Manifesto, was the first thing that popped into my mind. So
yeah,
that was what went up.
That's what's up, man. That is what's up. Okay, that is a cool little story. So everyone's kind of cracking a joke, but it turned into a real thing. It's got momentum. You have a following. It's demonstrating value on a regular basis. So that's what's up. Heck yeah, you're getting the last laugh, at least for now. Right.
Yeah, so definitely.
Just to give you guys some perspective, a little bit about the state of Mexico with regards to human trafficking. In an article published in the Latin Times, Mexico experienced a 245% increase in kidnappings between 2003 to 2013. To put hard numbers on that, in 2003, an average of 34 people were released from kidnappings each month. That was released. Okay.
Yeah.
In 2009, that number was up to 96 per month. By 2013, that number was at 1,162 people released per month. That's boom.
Well, and an interesting thing about those numbers is, a lot of stuff doesn't get reported.
Right, I'd imagine.
A lot of stuff doesn't get reported, and a lot of cases are just, left, as unknown, because Mexico, and this is something I've talked to a lot of people about this, Mexican criminal organizations have gotten body disposal down to a science. So if they want somebody to disappear off the face of the planet, Mexico's criminal organizations, they know how to do that, right? So the numbers are, could be anything, right?
Wow.
And usually some of those numbers are also put out by the government, and so. But yeah, definitely abductions for ransom, and abductions amongst between rival criminal groups in Mexico are everyday thing down there, and. I mean that amount of people disappearing, definitely causes something in the culture, as far as a response.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Where I mean, we'll get into more specific questions about that as we go on. But geez, man, that's intense. So a little bit. I believe there was a documentary about a gentleman who trained you, Lieutenant Colonel Laizola. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Laizola. Yeah, that's his.
That's his name. Yeah, man. So how did he impact you?
Lieutenant Colonel Laizola he's one of those, once in a lifetime type figures that comes along and I think in some way, shape, or form, usually environments like the one we were living in back then, usually produces people that are needed, right?
Yeah.
So Lieutenant Colonel Laizola was he's a former military officer, all the right training, he was one of those lead from the front type guys. And we were going through some horrible stuff, specifically in my hometown of Tijuana. And by this time, he got named director of the police in that part of the country. And I was fortunate enough to have known him from my time in the academy, where he was a director.
Okay.
And kind of went up the ranks.
Yeah.
And when he saw me out there, he asked, like, who here is unmarried? Like a few hands would raise up in the room, right? And who here doesn't have any kids? And less and less hands would raise up.
Who's ready to die?
Well, I didn't think about it that way till I was in the car with him, right?
Exactly.
And one of the first, actually the first close protection jobs I've ever did was for him when he was named director, right? He said, I only have one rule, just stick with me, whatever happens, just stick with me, and just keep me safe. And I was like, okay. Obviously my training as far as guarding somebody of that nature in a war zone was not where it needed to be. So I had to do a lot of learning on the fly.
Yeah.
But got into a car with him, and basically we went out, and he would actually take part in most of the high level operations. He would just
drive up.
walk. Yeah, he would walk behind the the assault team. Like we would basically be part of most of the high level operations in the region. Wow. And he would just basically be there supervising everything directly. So that was pretty insane. That was a pretty insane life experience. But he, if you ask anybody from Tijuana, they will say, like, he was our Batman. He fixed things at a very deep level. He had after some time with him, I had to, he sent me off to do other things, and he's still alive.
Yeah.
Last count we did, he had 12 attempts on his life. One of them was very close, and they took the use of his legs. And he's currently very involved in politics. He says, well, if I can't beat him with bullets, I'll beat him with words. So I think he's making a run for the mayorship of Tijuana right now. Mm-hmm. I'm actually behind him politically. I'm helping him out politically right now.
Outstanding.
But yeah, he's still at it. He's still kicking.
Man, that's like a man's man. I love hearing stories about men like that are doing things like that are fearless like that. I think it's beautiful, and I think our world needs to know more about men like that. Like, they need more archetypes.
They're real, man. I've never met anybody like him before or since. Mm-hmm. Conviction, he was one of those guys that would wake up and he always had a book with him. Or we'd be driving around, and he would ask me random things about
random knowledge
about anything,
Yeah.
He would give me guerrilla warfare manuals out of nowhere and said, like, read up on this. I'm going to quiz you tomorrow about it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So stuff like that, and he's a man of the people, he would talk to the guy on the street corner selling newspapers to the governor within the span of a few hours. And he would have he would always know what was going on, because he had he's the one that said this phrase that every now and then I quote, keep friends in low places. Low places can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but keep friends in low places. And he's something, man.
That's awesome, man. And I bet he was probably a respectful dude, a respectful, loving guy too.
Yeah. Family first.
Yeah.
Very, very conservative in his personal life and stuff like that. But when called upon, I would not want any. I wouldn't want that guy as an enemy, man.
Any part of any battle.
No, he would say people on the other side, bad guy side, would say that he was biblical in his. Right? He was biblical.
That's outstanding. I think that's it, man. Masculinity really, I don't think it's so much about toughness. I think it's more about being able to really have that character, like what you're describing, man. Just like knowing how to love, knowing how to bring the hate when it's time, knowing how to bring accountability when it's time, learning, I think that's good stuff, man. That's the character. That's good stuff, man. So you were protecting him for a while. What was it like protecting such a HVI, man?
Well, the first thing I kind of realized is that everybody assumed that I knew things that I didn't know, right? So first off, I have this VIP that doesn't want to sit in the back. No. Because culture in Mexico is what it is. So if you're not going to sit in the back, you're going to sit in the front. And I got tasked with making a convoy for this 3 to 4 car package to start. And I got an armored vehicle, and I had to basically educate myself on armored vehicles in the span of a week to know exactly what I was getting into.
Yeah.
What is a run flat? Does anybody here in the region know how to change a run flat tire?
Yeah.
Is my battery armored? Do I need to have the extra tire on the top of the car? Do I have to have it on the bottom of the car? Does this have an internal air, or if I throw some tear gas out the outside, will it filter in the inside?
Yeah.
All these things were things that I had to educate myself on. And slowly but surely, I had to, in a lot of ways, he pushed me into, I didn't want to let him down. Right.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Even if you don't know, you have to look like you do.
Yep.
Right. So, so I had to really kind of educate myself on some of that stuff. And, but the amazing thing about that time is that we had a lot of relationship with some American military individuals as well. So, got a lot of training. A lot of the training that I got specifically on that type of, operation, protecting somebody of that level, was from NSW guys that were coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. So, I got a lot of training from Israelis and some training from some former, Secret Service agents. But I don't think any of it resonated with me more than some of the stuff that I learned from these guys who were coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, because they were coming from a war zone. And back then where I was, it was a war zone, right?
Right.
So some of the overt military style executive protection stuff that I learned from some of these people, that was what resonated a lot with me. And that's what I kind of, started implementing on my side.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. That's what's up. I think there's something special. Like, it's one thing to go to a course, or there's one thing to take in information that's given to you, but I think there's something really special about teaching yourself trash, really special about going to seek information. Like, you soak it up and knowing you have to learn this trash, you know what I mean? Like, you soak it up different.
there's an image I get in my mind when you talk about it, as far as, me sitting in the floor of a tire shop in Rosarito.
Yeah.
With a laptop open and a video of a guy showing you how to change a run flat rim on a tire.
Oh man.
Translating what I was seeing to a technical guy there, and just, and basically going there each weekend because I needed a guy that knew how to do this on call if we had to change the tire.
Yeah.
So basically, it was me educating this guy and translating, and everybody would look at me like, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
And then, seeing armored vehicles kind of blow, the industry that deals with armored vehicles kind of grow during that time, and seeing that guy coming over to me on Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Years after, and hugging me and saying, what you taught me made me the most sought after.
Yes. Yes.
I put my kid through college, man. Thank you. Right. Dude, I was like, wow, I should have taken that, I should have learned it myself. Went into that. I think.
That's huge, bro. That's so cool how that came full circle though, man. That's huge.
Yeah. But it's funny, those environments produce, new markets, new needs.
Yeah.
And if you're not open to the idea of learning about stuff like that, and you're just, sitting back and just waiting for somebody, your boss, to tell you, you're going to have to go to this course to learn how to do this or do that. I mean, I had people like that in my life that I worked with.
Yeah.
It would just, they would sit back and say, well, eventually they'll send us to a course to learn how to do this or that.
Yeah.
I was restless, man. I mean, I think it's part survival instinct, part love doing this stuff. And, just if I have a day where I didn't learn anything new, that's not a good day for me.
Yo, bro, I'm right there with you, man. And it builds a certain muscle in you, like there's like this figure it out muscle. Yeah. I mean, like when I talk to certain people, they're like, I don't know how to do that. And then they just freeze like, and I'm like, yo, so we're going to figure it out now. I mean, like, what do you mean you don't know how to do this? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're lucky they gave you this much trash to get it done with. Because where I'm from, like, I mean, the Marine Corps, or even where I grew up in the Bahamas, is a third world country. Yo, you better go outside and figure out how to get it done. Yeah, I mean, and then start to build this self-reliance and this like different type of fluid intelligence where it's like, yo, we got to get this done. You look around and inside of you possess the type of intelligence to figure it out. So you just calm down and figure it out. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of the stuff that I do, especially in classes where I show people, a little bit about self-reliance and how to make things and modify things. There's a lot of people out there that want to buy solutions, right? Yeah. They want to go to a store and buy off the rack solution for something and just, I'm safe now because I bought this.
Like
yeah. Or I usually call them amulets. People want to buy the latest and greatest amulet to protect them, right?
Right. So, right.
Having a gun doesn't make you armed, just like having a plane doesn't make you a pilot. So if you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to make it. Are you going to know how to use it when you need to? That's always been my thing, and I like pushing people to get creative with solutions and find weird different ways of making things. Mm-hmm. That's always been my thing. It's pretty much my upbringing.
Yeah.
Down in Mexico, there's no Amazon yet. No eBay. We had to source things, find things, use things, procure things. We would go into a cartel safe house with the one, plate carrier and come up with two. That was the thing.
Right. Right.
We had to. That's how we had to do the stuff down there. But that's a great mindset to have. Always trying to figure things out. And don't take don't take somebody else's word for anything. Make your own mind up.
Yeah, man. No, that's the truth. That's true. Trust but verify. As the saying goes, man. So what got you into this? Why are you in this game doing what you're doing now?
As many in my former life would say, I don't know how to do anything else. I should have gone to school. Right? That's the thing they say, right?
Yeah.
I got I got out of that type of work at a very specific time. Politics down there are changing in Mexico. They're changing constantly. It's turning into a very leftist type country right now, so that's kind of making things a bit weird for work down there. And it was just a very thankless job without an end. No happy ending in that type of job. I had been doing private training and showing some of the stuff that I learned to military in the U.S. and Mexico, and doing training for corporate type training for people and stuff like that for about 2 to 3 years when I was still active. So when I left the job, it was just it was there. It was the job opportunities were already open for me to do this type of training, and for some reason the need for this type of stuff, I think, has been going up. People that travel a lot. Some of the things Mexico is exporting into the United States, as far as criminal modus, and some of our criminals are kind of making their home in the U.S. now, and their tactics are getting implemented by groups in Texas. I've seen cartel violence in Chicago, Jersey. It's just a weird time. It's a weird time as far as what my experience base brought me and what I learned from working in Mexico is now relevant in the United States, sadly, right? So a lot of the stuff that surprises some people in the U.S. are things that I saw 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago down in Mexico. So I don't know. I mean, why am I doing it? I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
Right. And so I put a lot of effort into learning how to do this type of stuff and experience, which is a bitch of a teacher. Yeah. And I think there's definitely a need out there right now. So I'm filling some sort of need for the moment.
Yeah, no, I dig it, man. That just sounds like you were doing it, and it's kind of made the most sense. Like it just kind of like happened, almost like it made the most sense. And then you're probably kind of good at like what you're doing. You are good at what you're doing, and then you find a rhythm with it, man.
I've tried to remain active, so I do a lot of volunteer work with some groups that I keep to myself, but I'm still working child trafficking stuff, and a few other things for some groups out there. So I keep myself sharp for that, and again, I just can't stand still myself.
Right.
I always need to be able to be doing something. And
I dig it, man. I'm the same way. Like, got to keep running water, never grows stale is the way they say it. But like, I think when you stop moving, you start dying, man.
Yeah.
So if you were going to sum up this is tough. This question's kind of complicated, but if you were going to say there was one really big quintessential rule thing you learned during your time, active time in Mexico, what would that have been? I mean, it can be a principle, it can be anything, but if there was one thing that like, you're like, yo, you got like training day new guy sitting next to you and he's about to like, roll out line of departure, and you're like, hey, what would it be?
Oh God, man.
So huge. I know you got to time travel for that answer, but
I think, a lot of people ask me that specific question, especially when, Mexico. I think, working law enforcement in Mexico is such an alien concept to most people. And
like, why?
Well, they probably watched Narcos, and they probably watched, Sicario.
Yeah. I love Sicario, bro.
Hey,
what do you think about Sicario?
I don't know where they got the idea from that for that MP5 toting. I don't know. Just putting it out there. They probably got some, maybe. I don't know.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying that just name another Mexican that was, online with an MP5, rocking down in Mexico.
My
right?
man.
I don't know. Just putting it out there.
So good.
It's a nice movie, but they could use better technical consultants, and I'm free if they want cigar or treat.
Yes.
Yeah. But number one lesson that I think I learned down there was under promise, over deliver. When it came time to work my ass off, to not talk about anything, but to do. People would say, one of the things I always got, not yelled at, because all of my instructors were former military or current military down there.
You're going to get some anyways.
Solutions, not problems, would get screamed at centimeters from my face with some spit added to it, right?
Right.
So I learned quickly to look for solutions, not problems, and I learned quickly to under promise and over deliver. Basically, not talk out of my ass, but do. Show us, don't tell us, is like a motto we used to have, and we still have, and with the people I work with. So that basically just be about it instead of talking about it. That's probably the main lesson that kind of pushed me forward during all that time.
Heck yeah. No, that's a good principle to live by, man. In anything that we do, man. It's funny how these principles, they transition real easy, from the battlefield, from EP straight over into real life, into business or whatever we're up to, man. Even in relationships, like I see it all as combat,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I get, conflict definitely produces a very specific type of mindset in an individual that you can't learn from a book.
No, you
can't get it out of a classroom. Hardship, that type of hardship and conflict, it's not romanticizing it. I never do that. I'm not saying that, everybody should go off and do some war somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but the people that do go through that type of fire, usually come out the other end, with a very specific mindset that I don't think that you can buy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, conflicts happen, different conflicts happen in different generations. And sometimes there's you always see this, sometimes we would see this with some of the new guys coming in that didn't kind of go through some of the shit that we went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would look at these guys and he was like, look at that fucker over there.
Sweet. Look at this guy.
Look at this guy with the, with his with his backlights untaped up,
Yeah. It's being nasty over here.
We would tape up the backlights of our cars, so we would sneak around in our cars at night, doing shit.
Yeah.
And the new guys wouldn't do that because it was outside of protocol, And he was like, these guys have never done stuff,
right?
Good times,
It's true, man.
Good times, hard men produce good times, and good times produce, other type of men.
No, it's true. Good times produce soft men.
Yeah.
They really do, man. Unfortunately, America's just losing all vestiges of masculinity right now at the present moment, in my opinion. It breaks my heart, man. But in my opinion, yeah, man. And that same thing happened to me. I got to the fleet. My big brothers had just got back from Fallujah. And I'm looking at these guys like, yo, how come everybody looks so trashy? Like no one cares about their uniforms. I just got out of boot camp. I don't know left from right yet, right? So I'm looking at these guys hard, sociopathic, Uncle Sam's misguided children. These dudes were psycho. Like I get to the barracks. All you can hear is rock music on blast, rap music on blast, country music on blast, porn and video games on blast. And dudes are just running around fighting on the catwalk. No one's got all their clothes on, like just dudes with no shirts on. Dudes are working out. And dude, like it was like I just realized I was like, I'm in like juvie / like this is legal. We kill people for the government. Like we go to countries and they unleash us on places. And that's when it got real. And the first, like within my first hour there, one dude grabs me, yanks me in the bathroom. He's like, takes off his blouse. He's like, you see this? And all he had was like a bone, you know, because all his muscle tissue had been ripped off. He's like, you know, you better listen to everybody here. And if you don't listen, you know, you can end up like this. And like, it just got real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was like, and my first night in the fleet, the guy who came in with me, he just got broke off. They injured him within 72 hours and he was out of the Marine Corps, you know, like I've, you know, by the grace of God held up. But I get to see those generational gaps. And then I went to combat and then I came back and I saw the new, like, sweet, fresh, fluffy dudes that we got sent, you know, and I was like, you know, we got to make men out of them before we went back over. And yeah, it was all good. But that experience, you know, again, my fight was completely different, right? And most of my, you know, when I moved up in here, up to the U.S. Yeah.
And you know, my first 2 years in the U.S. was near Pendleton. Right?
Oh, so you're used to us ruining everything.
And most of my close friends, my American close friends, were, for some reason, you know, nature just sent me a bunch of Marines over, right?
Yeah.
And some of the people that I used to work with, you know, liaison with, most of those guys were Marines. So every now and then we get around the campfire and start, you know, telling our war stories, you know?
Yeah, man.
And you see some of the younger guys that haven't, you know, being an instructor, you get some of the younger guys that, you know, approach you and, you know, ask you questions because they're looking for their fight.
Mm-hmm. They are.
Some of the younger guys are looking for their fight and they want to go in and they want to do, and I have no idea what their fight is going to be, you know?
Yeah.
And they ask me questions about,
if
you know,
they're going to get one.
Yeah. Or if they're going to get one, you know,
honor of getting one, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, we always, you know, end up in the same weird place where my fight was against people that spoke my same language, went to the same churches, around the places where I grew up. And I visit my family every now and then in the same places I used to had that conflict, you know? So it's a different war.
Yeah.
A very different war. And so in that regard, some of these young guys that want to go into the military and ask me questions about, you know, I want to serve my country and stuff like that. It's like, if my body would allow me, I would go into the service myself, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just all sorts of amped up in my, you know,
I'm 30, from the past.
And I'm 36 now. So, you know, if the country could use me in other ways, I'm all about it. But, you know, some of these kids are looking for their fight and, you know, just looking at the horizon. I have no idea what their conflict is going to be like.
Yeah, man. No, that's real. And it's interesting. I think that saying like real, recognize real. I think it's real, man. Like being kind of a combatant, you know, I think that like I find myself in the company of other combatants as well. Even with regards to like predators, you know, I feel like there's just certain pedigrees of humans that we just recognize each other and we end up, you know, I think one of the most valuable tools for executive protection is noticing who else is watching. You know, because that's how you know, being an apex predator, like you realize who the other predators are real quick, and you just feel it. Like, I mean, I'm in Israel. I meet some of these guys. I look in their eyes. They look like that scene. It's so cliche, but to me, it's real. The scene in 12 Good Men when the Afghanistan, not Sheik, but the head Afghanistan guy, is looking at the whole platoon and he's like, and he won't talk to the main character and he's like, killer eyes. He's like, you don't have killer eyes yet. But he looks at his homie next to him. He's like, this guy's got killer eyes, you know? And I've definitely had that experience. I don't know if they call it the 1,000-yard stare or what, but I just feel like real recognize real. It's probably why you're around a bunch of combat Marines all the time, you know?
I recently had we do have this weird, you know, group of friends that I belong to, you know.
Yeah. You got the same sense of humor and everything, right?
Yeah. We have this running joke that the reason we don't live all in the same town is because, you know, because shit would probably blow up and burn or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we're kind of spread out all over the country, and every now and then we have every Christmas we have we exchange, gifts.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be something, something very personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a combat knife that went through some stuff.
Oh, okay.
On a vest of one of my brothers, a Marine.
Yeah.
And, so looking at this blade that came basically for me, from my Mexican beaner eyes, this thing came from a fight on Mars, basically, this from the moon. It's a space knife used to fight aliens on another planet, because I again, it's completely unknown to me. That experience over there was completely unknown to me, but I've been learning about it through their eyes and their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty cool seeing, getting that, and I was, this was with me during, this operation, and it's been places. I'm wow, thank you. And he said, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to wear it whenever I get to meet my daughter's boyfriends in a few years.
Right.
And have that on my, some sort of mojo is going to be on it. Right. So I'm going to wear that on my belt,
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's good stuff. So that's deep stuff, man. That's man stuff. Executive protection, do's and don'ts in Mexico.
Wow.
Yo, because people be going over there thinking it's all good.
Yeah.
It's another app,
I've worked privately with some executive protection groups in the U.S. Now for the past 2 years. There's a lot of stuff that people just, take for granted. Number one, finding a quality executive protection company in Mexico is hard. It's not easy. It's not easy, and I get that. And some people, I've seen some gringos come down to Mexico and just, hey, I'm running with this company. You do realize they have a bogus carry license with them, and if you get rolled up by the army, all of you are going to jail. All of you. It's like, really? Everybody.
Jeez.
Did you ask them for copies of their collective carry license? What's a collective carry license? But he said he was former military. Did you ask him for his ID? And I don't even know what that would look like. Well, I mean, I could tell you,
Yeah.
But I would have to charge you a consulting fee. But,
right.
But I think number one is do your homework. Do your homework before you fucking get out the door in Mexico.
Yeah.
Trust no fucking one.
Straight up. Trust
no one. And I do mean trust no one. Verify everything.
Yeah.
If you want a legit solid reputation report on a company, ask another company about the other company.
Yeah.
And ask 3 companies about the other company. Usually somewhere in the lines of asking the opinions of 3 other companies that are doing the same thing, you'll find some truth within that,
like a sense of truth.
Yeah. You can do it all over you can do it on the phone. Know what documents look like, know what a carry license looks like. Somebody saying that they have the ability to carry firearms in Mexico is something that's very common, but there's a lot of fakes out there providing a lot of fake paperwork and doing armed security for some high level people. And I do mean high level. I've seen some very high level Americans and companies in Mexico moving with illegal security, armed with illegal weapons, that if they were to be rolled up by the military and asked for their documentation, they would be going off to federal Mexican prison for those weapons, right? So, again,
everybody, client, everything, like everyone in the motorcade.
If they would detain everybody in a vehicle, they would be detained.
Yeah, we're talking about catastrophic failure.
Dude, I know enough about this type of job because I did it for a while. I actually worked I worked managing the security of the governor of Baja and his family for 4 years. And that security detail was probably one of the most high-level ones in Mexico, next to the president and next to the our version of the vice president, right? It was that high level because he was the president's right-hand man, right?
Yeah,
it was a pretty high level. And I got to learn the ins and out of operating a detail in Mexico.
Yeah.
I got to learn how to go through airports, the firearms licenses, the military, how to deal with the military, because they're the ones that are in charge of supervising firearms licenses. And if you're going to go in transit with firearms, how to, who to trust, companies to hire, all that type of stuff I got to learn just working in that detail. Number one, trust but verify thing, and don't trust anybody. The best investment you can have in Mexico is having a good, solid, trustworthy contact that you can verify. Now, when I say verify, hey, I know some guy, I know some vato down in Baja. He's pretty good. He can tell you, he can show you around. That doesn't mean shit. Documentation. I could show you my documentation. It's not. There's no such thing as top secret in Mexico. Number one.
Yeah, there's another one. Message.
Nobody. There's a lot of people out there. You know what? I was part of whatever group out there, and I can't share my paperwork because it's top secret. Bullshit. If you are an EP company, you want to hire me as a consultant or as a guide or as a fixer or as whatever, I'll show you my paperwork. Right?
Right.
Why wouldn't I show you my paperwork? I know I'm gonna make
money like this.
Exactly. My paperwork isn't that common. I have certifications from both the U.S. and Mexico. I'm bilingual. I have my service record, and it's cool. And I have I have my confidence testing from the government, which mean that during my time active, I wasn't on the take.
Yeah.
So I have all that stuff, and why wouldn't you show it? There's a lot of people down here that are very sketchy, and when they get offered jobs of the nature that I'm speaking about, they get, I can't show you my paperwork. The reason why they can't show you your paperwork is because they're full of shit, or they don't have it.
They don't have it. Those are the only two reasons that exist. There's no top secret in Mexico, guys.
There's no such thing, man.
Yeah.
Verify, trusting people, having good, reliable sources. There are companies in Mexico that do executive protection that are very high level that I trust with my life and my family's life. But they're few and far between. And I know it's like it's a hard thing to kind of find these people out there, but there definitely are some out there. Learn how to differentiate the authority figures in the environment in Mexico.
Okay.
A municipal police officer, a state police officer, a federal police officer, all wear the same color uniform.
Dang it. I was just hoping. Jeez.
How are you going to tell them apart, right?
Yeah.
The firearms, their firearms, you can tell people levels with the firearms they're carrying.
Okay.
If you learn how to read Spanish, you can tell by what's written on their trucks.
Okay.
The emblems they wear are different, so kind of educating yourself and your team on how to tell these people apart.
Yeah.
Why would that be important? Depending on the level of person that is in front of you, the trust level should raise or lower. I wouldn't trust anybody myself, but if you're in a rural part of Mexico with some sort of advanced team of any kind,
yeah,
and you run into a municipal police officer and there's no town around,
yeah,
they are not supposed to be there, and they're not supposed to be stopping you. That's a state or federal level thing happening there.
Yeah.
So now things are weird. So you can gauge the situation. Yeah. Also, a good guy in Mexico that knows his work will actually call the local federal police office and let them know that they're going to be moving in the area and have a presence there if they're going to be moving in more than one vehicle, just to keep safe and not be confused with cartel activity.
Yeah.
Right. So there's lots of things that, that you have to educate yourself on before you go into a country like Mexico. Not all hospitals have an emergency room in Mexico. It's few and far between. We don't have blood banks in Mexico as commonly as you have in the US. So better have a blood bag guy on your team. If you don't know what that is, better learn, son.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Being able to navigate or negotiate your way in and out of an airport is a very, very specific skill set, private and otherwise. Knowing how to identify a quality over a subpar armored vehicle that sometimes gets rented out to you as a quality vehicle.
Yo,
and then you walk around it and you're like, do you want this shit yourself in your garage, dude?
Did you guys just make this up?
Yeah.
You like tape these, glue these boards here?
Yeah, you're gonna put your high level client on inside of I had a Range Rover, a 2004 Range Up armored Range Rover.
Yeah, that
felt like you were driving, a boat. Basically, it felt like you were driving a boat, right?
Back and forth, and
the suspension was just awful. Seeing the VIP, it wasn't my, it wasn't my gig. I was just hired on as a guide, but I could see the VIP in the rear view mirror. You could see his eye twitching. I could see that. Man. Yeah, he was not happy. Jeez. So, Mexico is one of those places. All places are. The advanced work you have to do in Mexico is, golden, man. If you can have contacts on the ground, trustworthy contacts on the ground, it's one of those places, man, where they're essential. Learn how to read paperwork, have contacts that can show you what paperwork is. Sometimes a bottle of tequila can get you shit. Yeah. Sometimes a Leatherman multi-tool can get you information or, work for people. So, have things with you that you can barter or, give away. That makes people happy.
On hand. On hand.
On hand. I used to buy these big packets of Duracell flashlights, LED ones at Costco in San Diego. And just have those with me, and you could pay people with those depending on where you are. Just carry it in your pocket, take it out of your pocket like it looks like it's yours. And it's a very personal gift to somebody. Here you go, man. I'll make you a friend some places.
Yeah, man.
And just realizing that Mexico is a place where you pay your way through shit.
Okay.
So bribery is a thing.
But it's like a skill set. It's not, it's like something it's an honor. You got to embrace it.
I can't, speak to where. But I showed some people that are very high level guys. I mean, when I say high level, I mean these guys are ninjas, right?
Yeah.
They asked me to show them some very specific thing, and I was like going through my mind, like, what are they going to ask me to show them?
Yeah.
Notes. I spent 3 days with them showing them how to bribery works in Mexico. That's specifically what I showed them, right? Just 3 days of social engineering and bribery.
That's huge if it can get you in and out, get you privileged information, keep you out of trouble.
Checkpoints, just knowing how to not overpay.
Yeah.
$20 can get you out of a DUI in some places in Mexico, and $1,000 can get you out of manslaughter. Woo! So if you know how, when, and where,
yeah,
it is definitely a skill set. I'm not saying you should do that,
right,
without knowing what you're doing. But just realize, there's a reason why I call Mexico the upside down. People kind of get a kick out of that, because what applies in the U.S. doesn't apply in Mexico necessarily. And if you can travel with a lot of things. You can travel with your luggage. You can travel with your, your clothes. You can travel with a lot of things, but you can't travel with your moral compass and your legal system. Right? You have to adjust it.
Yeah.
what's possible here in the U.S. might not be possible there in Mexico. So, or elsewhere in the world for that matter. You know, you have to adjust things. And, you know, just talking to somebody about bribery, they've never done it before in their life. And it's something that I grew up with, so I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's unnatural for some people. And it's something that people just don't even think about.
That's huge. There's so much there, bro. That's such good gouge, man. With regards to personal protection, if you're going to say there are 3 components that, or just some components that someone should focus on that's traveling. I mean, you talked about kind of executive protection considerations, but for a civilian, you know, hard targeting considerations.
Yeah. I mean, you can, we live in a golden age of internet and Google.
Yeah.
You might not be able to have an advanced team go ahead of your travel schedule and you know, check everything out, but you can do it yourself. If you have the mental discipline to do an advanced job for yourself when you're traveling, what hotel am I going to go to? Look up any sort of news events around that hotel. Mm-hmm. Right? Any violent activity in the town that I'm going to be in, just look that up. Right. Yeah. And start writing down commonalities of the trucks that people are using to abduct people in this area. It's always trucks. King cab trucks with king cab trucks and SUVs are the ones that are commonly used in this area. Why is that? Okay. Right. Oh, okay. So now you have a commonality and now you know what to look out for, you know? Yeah. You know, it's okay to be paranoid as long as that paranoia is educated. You know, be educated about what you're paranoid about. You can be paranoid about everything and just look at that car over there. It could be a taxi. It could be a motorbike. Mm-hmm. It could be a Colombian type of attack. They're going to shoot me on the back of the motorbike. But wait, none of that is common in this area. It's always trucks. Or it's always these type of kingdoms. So you basically you kind of, or you educate yourself about what you need to be afraid of or what you need to be paranoid about, right? So you can do that by doing a quick Google search about the area you're gonna be in. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how to speak that language, keywords: abduction, crime, assault, in the language you're going to travel in, right? So let's say example: Spanish. Abduction is abduction, secuestro. Derogatory terms towards Americans in the region you travel into. Gringo, güero, americano, whatever. You know, just looking for the derogatory terms. So those are indicators in an environment where you hear that. You know, you hear somebody say that. You know, maybe somebody's gonna orientating themselves towards you. And learn what the cops look like in the region. You know, that cop over there is carrying around a pearl handled 45 ACP. Okay. That doesn't make sense because that pistol is not standard issue in any part of Mexico. Yeah. So you know that guy's off. You know, you educate yourself, and you can do that through Google. You know, you want to be I don't like the term gray man. But if you want to not stand out specifically in regions, you can do a quick Google Street View of the environment you're going to travel into and write down every time you see a certain color and just dress exactly like the most common color you see on Google Street View in the area. Right? You want to have a lot of friendly locals in Mexico City? Find out what the local sports team is, specifically the soccer team. And you're going to be so fucking well liked in that environment. Golly. And just learn about the past 2 or 3 games they had. And you're going to be so well liked, man. Better than a packet of cigarettes.
Yeah. Wow. Bro. So, I mean, I've done a lot of traveling in my EP career. I stopped counting at 60 some countries. And like the stuff you're talking about right now, bro. Like if I had the IQ on some of the stuff that you're talking about right now, bro. Oh, I mean, it's huge. We're talking about like social dynamics, gaining rapport, being able to like instantly make friends. These skills can save your freaking life. Yeah. Save your life. They'll make your job 100 times easier. You're interfacing with your hotel. You guys like the same soccer team or whatever. the hotel, your concierge is probably going to be a way cooler to you. Like the things you're talking about, knowing what to look for. Yeah. Being on edge, but how much more effective are you going to be if you're on edge looking for the right pre-threat indicators, the right target indicators, the right clusters of behavior, to understand the dialect. When you hear two people having a conversation, you're like, you're reading body language as best you can, but if they hit one or two buzzwords, hey, that's something else to throw into your cluster of, are we about to need to just get out of here right now? You know what I mean?
People, again, I don't like the term gray man myself.
Yeah.
I always say,
why not? Why don't you like the gray man term?
Because it indicates that you are a passive observer, and I don't like being passive,
That's what's up.
I don't like being passive. Usually the people that survive in those environments are players, not fucking scenery, right? The scenery gets shot up, and the players are the ones that fucking make it out, right?
Yeah, make the moves.
We had a term that was kind of used for some of the terms that gray man gets used for.
Yeah.
In Tijuana, we have painted donkeys that they paint them to look like zebras, right? Right. So we would call it the Tijuana zebra mentality. So what the Tijuana zebra mentality?
Yeah.
A donkey painted like a zebra would get looked at and gawked at in any other part of the world other than Tijuana. One of those can be walking down the street, nobody fucking bats an eye, nobody looks at it, nobody fucking cares why it belongs there, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's so fucking outlandish and ridiculous, it belongs in the environment.
It's Tijuana zebra, man.
Tijuana zebra, right? So if you can find a way to belong in your environment, by that I mean, if somebody's talking to somebody else and they're having a rapport and they're laughing at something, even if they don't share the same language, you belong there.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, you already made a connection, so you kind of belong there. Mm-hmm. If you're wearing something very specific to the environment that isn't gray, I'm not wearing, I want to blend into the concrete behind me. It could be something as ridiculous as a very specific sport team.
Sport team shirt, jersey.
That is local. That guy belongs here, I used to have fun with that in Chicago. Yeah. I would wear a Blackhawks hat and gear like that during certain times of the year. I would go over there visiting and doing classes, and I would, people would ask me about the game, and I was like, I would learn, Yeah. That's a muscle that I would try to develop every time I traveled. You don't need to belong to look like you belong. And there's definitely something to be said about having a good smile, a great energy, being humble, and trying to make friends in places, especially low ones. Something that for some reason, gets missed a lot. And people always want to go there. I don't want to be seen. I want to be a ninja. I want to be a gray man and, blend in the background. It makes sense for some things. And I get the rationale. But personally, I'm more proactive, and I like creating players in an environment. I don't like creating scenery. So if I can teach anybody anything, I will teach them how to play the environment more so than, blend into it.
Yeah. No, I dig that. You dropped the being humble, having good energy and a smile thing. That has been kind of the game I've always played, default respectful when I go into a new environment, and it's just open doors, respecting the culture, respecting the people, not being the tough guy. You know what I'm saying? Playing my position, those have been the tools that I've used. Now these social dynamics, these like other tactics you're giving are fantastic, because I can see how much farther I would have gotten, how much quicker I would have gotten if I had been playing, those different games, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. People, there's a lot of tradecraft that people think is like, that tradecraft is, I saw something like that in a movie with the CIA being trained and stuff like that. All of that stuff is street life 101 for most of the people that I grew up with. Yeah. And I didn't go to CIA to be trained. I learned from seeing people out there. I always look for the quiet guy and the old guy in the room with a scar over his eye. That's the guy you want to talk to, right?
Exactly.
And so a friend of mine looked at me once. The guy runs an MMA gym in LA, and he looked at me and was like, "You've been around, right?" It's like, "Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you can't fake a broken nose." And he pats me on the back, right? And those experienced guys out there, it's something that gets lost a lot in our world. I think. Yeah. Everybody wants to go to the classroom to learn. But, the world is a classroom. Just sit down, look, talk, get off your fucking phone.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. Yeah. Be brave enough to shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah.
That's bravery right there. Be brave enough to say, I don't know.
Yeah. To not be the man,
But specifically have the balls to start a fucking conversation with somebody you don't know.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that is missing from the world. People get freaked out with, I went to DC for the first time to do a class last year, I think it was.
Yeah,
and one of the students there was, we went out to lunch after a class, and he looked at me funny because I got into a conversation with somebody there for the better part of probably 10 minutes. We're talking about the Book of Mormon because he was a Mormon.
Heck yeah.
And I'm not a Mormon, but I've read the Book of Mormon and I know about Mormonism.
Solid.
Some of my friends are Mormon, right?
Yeah.
And good conversation, and I have a friend in the environment now, somebody I could say hi to,
Some rapport. Yeah.
Exactly. And he is from there, right? He lives in DC. And if he ducks behind a counter, I need to duck behind a counter.
Man. Right? Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you have a rapport with anybody there, specifically somebody that belongs there, instead of looking around for all these imagined threats,
indicators,
you look at the guy that belongs in the environment. When the fucker is staring at somebody weird, that guy's weird.
Yep, that guy's weird. That's a Tijuana zebra. We ain't in Tijuana right now.
Yeah. And the student looked at me like, that's pretty fucking, that's pretty insane, mind blowing. Where did you learn that? It's like, I don't want to get killed. That's how you learn that.
Right. Yo, no, that's solid though. That's good stuff, man. I mean, it helps you because then you have so much more bandwidth to dedicate to different tasks, to dedicate to other tasks, and maybe that guy will give you the look when two other dudes are talking about the gringos and the Americanas and all this stuff. Maybe he will give you the look and be like, hey, maybe you should get out of here,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where and it's in nature. Nature is very honest, and a lot of these lessons are out there in nature. When the birds get all quiet in their environment, as a hunter, they belong there. They can see shit you can't see,
and they just shut up.
And maybe even if you could see what they saw, you wouldn't recognize it because you're not from there.
Yeah,
so, eat that fucking humble pie and just listen and look, watch and learn. Again, people want a 360 vision and throw a drone up into the sky and just watch everything.
Keep the shades on all the time.
Yeah, shut one eye, go in and out of a dark room and stuff like that.
Keep that night vision. Got to keep the night vision, bro.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm all about it, man. There's definitely something to be said about these soft social skills. And there's something it's something you have to really develop, not just in go do one of Ed's urban movement class so you can learn about some of these things. I think I'm only reminding you about things you already know. I'm only showing you things you don't want to do because you were afraid to, like starting conversations with strangers and handling exercises I do with some people, to get them out of their comfort zone.
So good. That's awesome.
But, I always tell people, I'm not teaching you anything new. Everything's been done. Everything's repackaged, repurposed, renamed, rebranded. It's already been done. The only thing that's different is we're doing it now for a current threat, current situation.
Yeah.
And with current available technologies and current available means. So all we're doing is just making it fit for our time and our place and our moment, right?
Yeah.
Your moment could be tomorrow on a train to Paris when some dude pulls out an AK out of a backpack.
Yeah.
Or it could be some weird dude that knocks on your door right, at your house,
right
to your door. And there's something wrong, funny with his way he's walking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It could be anything like that. But you have to, every day, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it every fucking day.
No, that's the truth, man. And it's just putting emphasis on different tactics, so that we recognize more significance about them, more utility, out of them.
Yeah. Software over hardware.
100%.
And when it needs to, when time needs to, where you have to go to the hardware side of things, you're way ahead.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, someone said a while back, man, amateurs focus on hardware and professionals upgrade their software. And man, I found that to be so true. Just throughout my life, I think the most used things I've learned from, my audiobooks, man, that I've been getting at, for the last few years, to be honest with you. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.